Yes, yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Billsology. I'm your host, 𝐸𝐮𝐻𝐵𝐾. I have today, it's not Dave Myers, it's not DM3. Shout out to DM3, he'll be back next week. But I have my boy Anthony Romeo on the show joining me today to chop it up. Anthony, how you doing?
I'm awesome, 𝐸𝐾. It's good to be back on with you. I know you and I always have a great time and talk some good Bills stuff when we're on together. And I've been taking a little bit of a break this off season, but excited to hop back in. Certainly been following it and doing everything I need to, but excited to hop back in and be on with you, man, and talk with the people again.
Absolutely. And I'm excited. I'm just as excited as you. We usually have good chemistry when we're on. So, when Dave said he will be out, you was one of the first people I thought of. I was like,
I
this is a
appreciate
great,
that.
great time to have my boy Anthony on. So we can discuss some Bills football. It's training camp now, and we had the red and blue scrimmage. So it's going to be some excellent discussions. But before we start, if you're watching on YouTube, please give this a like, subscribe to the Bills and Buffalo YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. If you're watching on X, please give this a like. Please give this a repost. If you're watching on Facebook, please give this a like and give this a share as well. If you don't know us by now, we are Built in Buffalo. Please get to know us. But Anthony, there's been a lot of things going on about the Buffalo Bills this week. It's been a lot of rumblings about a number of different topics, and I'm planning to get into them. But the first
Yeah.
topic I want to get into is our cornerback, our rookie first round pick, Maxwell Harrison. There's been a lot of rumblings throughout the week of what his injury was when he first got hurt. And a lot of us thought that it could have been the ACL, and that was the fear. And even there
Mm-hmm.
were some
Mm-hmm.
false reports out there that
Right.
that's what it could have been. But luckily, or thankfully, not thankfully he got hurt, but thankfully it wasn't to that severity. It was a LCL sprain, a lateral collateral ligament sprain. So first off, what is your thoughts on Maxwell Harrison and his progression thus far before we get into his injury?
Yeah, I mean, it as needed right now, like as advertised. He's a rookie coming in for me anyway. Like some people's expectations might have been through the roof. They wanted him to come in day one and establish that he's the number two guy next to Christian Benford and he would start and all of that. But for me, you're looking at a rookie always coming in, needs to progress, right? I
Mhm.
would be great. I would have loved if by the end of training camp he showed enough to be the number two guy, and that would have been phenomenal, right? But coming in, you have to learn. You've got to take your bumps. You're getting used to the NFL. You're getting used to your team. You're learning the playbook, all that stuff. Yes, he's been on the team since he was drafted, but it's so much all at once. First training camp, going through the motions, learning, growing, doing what he needed to do. He wasn't making every big play out there.
Mhm.
He was making mistakes, but that's what you like to see. Again, not that you like to see mistakes, but you like to see learning, growing, bonding with the guys. And that is truly what Maxwell Harrison was doing before the unfortunate injury, right? So I was very happy with where Maxwell Harrison was going. Obviously the reports are that Trey White is really dominating out there and really competing to be that guy who's starting next to Christian Benford as the number two. And yeah, so I mean, it's the problem that we have now is that it does set back Maxwell Harrison, right? This is a huge setback. Any snaps missed, we saw it last offseason with Cole Bishop as a rookie, right? And we'll get to
Mhm.
him later, I'm sure. But
Mhm.
this, it's unfortunate when a rookie misses time in his first training camp because there's so much going on, and every day is another big step in that right direction of getting on the field in a real game action for the first time in the NFL. And now Maxwell Harrison certainly is going to be set back from that. Yes, they say the timetable 3 to 4 weeks. Who knows? And then in 3 to 4 weeks, he's going to be on. To me, that this doesn't mean he's not going to be on the short-term IR to start the season. In fact, I think that's the best route to go at this point, just to get him up to speed and let him catch up with the month that he's missing a month into the season, and then be ready for him to get action if he's ready to see the field. And who knows what will be at that point in terms of our roster. But yeah, I really like Maxwell Harrison. The one thing that, when we drafted him, that he was to bring to this team more than anything. Yes, we needed cornerback depth. We needed a starter. We needed guys that we could be confident in after the debacle we saw in the AFC Championship game, right? I think last year we did this with linebacker where it was, okay, we lost the linebacker. We had to call somebody off the street, AJ Klein, in the playoffs. and then, you know, he had to play snaps in a game when he hadn't been there all year. That worked, you know, in a way where Bean making the roster the next year said, we're loading up on linebacker. I'm never doing this again. We're going to have the depth we need. This year, it seemed like they did that with cornerback, right? They've got guys they believe in. They brought in guys that they know in Dane Jackson and Trey White, that you know what you're getting out of those guys. So you at least have a floor, right? And that's really what they did to elevate this team. But the one aspect of Hairston's game that I was really looking forward and what he was really going to bring to this team is the takeaway ability, right? He can take away the ball, and he's really good at it, and he makes plays on the ball. He's that kind of cornerback, right? I think that is the part with the depth that we have that we could end up missing out on while he's out, right? And again, who knows if he would have been starting on day one, or if he would have been even getting snaps in the defense come week 1 of the regular season, or even week 4 if he's out that many weeks. But that is the dynamic part of his game that I think the Bills will miss the most. But I like our depth enough, and I'm comfortable with the guys we have on this roster who were on the bubble that could now make the team, and you know, still probably won't see the field if Trey White's the starter or whatever. But still having that depth is important.
Absolutely, having that depth is definitely important, and what I'm going to miss is the natural athletic ability from Maxwell Harrison. I think that is something that I wanted to see. He had, you know, special man coverage skills, and of course, did he get beat while he was there in camp? Of course he did. He's going to go through his lumps in the road and his bumps in the road as a rookie cornerback, catching up to the speed of the game, but his natural athletic ability is something that you can't teach. His man cover skills, he was a gifted athlete. He was one of the best, if not the best. You know, Cole Bishop may have something to say about that now. We're getting a little bit more athletic in the back end, but he was probably the most athletic player we had in our defensive backfield. Definitely our fastest player in the defensive backfield. And now that he's out, I feel like, you know, the Buffalo Bills are kind of back to square one. They don't have that, you know, they don't have that natural athlete. It's more like technicians in the backfield now. I think Christian Benford is a great man cover corner. He's underrated as a man cover corner, but I believe he is a technician at his craft. I believe Trey White in this stage of his career, he's more of a zone cover corner as opposed to a man cover corner, especially going through the significant injuries he's had in the past. He wasn't fast when he was healthy, so I'm pretty sure he's lost a half a step, if not a step. So I'm going to miss the natural athletic ability that Maxwell Harrison can possess and give the Buffalo Bills on that back end. But like you said, I do have confidence in the group. And I think, you know, Roy talked about it a little bit. I do have confidence in the group. I do have confidence in Trey White's ability still going into his later stages of his career. Why is that? Because I think he's healthy now. I think Trey White is finally healthy, and he's in a defensive scheme that he knows best. He's not in that, you know, LA Rams scheme where they was asking him to do things he's not accustomed doing. He's not in that Baltimore Ravens defensive scheme where they was asking him to do things where he's not accustomed doing because of the defense that they run and they implement. So back in Buffalo, running that cover 3 zone-based scheme with some man principles, of course, the Buffalo Bills want to run more man. I really like the depth. But Anthony, I want to ask you, does this give any other cornerback? I know we talked about Trey White. Does this give anybody else in the cornerback room an opportunity to get a bigger role? You talked about a Dane Jackson. What are your thoughts about Dorian Strong or any cornerback that we have? Yeah,
you mentioned the two guys who I think, I don't want to say benefit, but move up for me the most, I guess, in that case. Dane Jackson for me was the one that I had him off the roster and likely to be on the practice squad as a guy who, you know, wants to stick around probably. So he was the one for me where, again, there's a floor. You know, he can play in this defense. He knows it. He can teach it, everything. You know what you're getting out of Dane Jackson, but it's not as exciting as the potential from some of these other guys like a Dorian Strong, right? So I'm excited to see again what Strong can bring in the preseason. I expect that he's going to get a lot of playing time out there in the preseason, right? As a rookie, as a guy who's not expected to be a starter, we're going to see what he can do, right? And I'm excited to see that, and I expect that he will make the roster. I did before because he was a draft pick. You know, I like his ability. I think. Yeah, I think he's the one who will get the most playing time and has the most upside with the opportunities, the snaps that are now open, right? And in terms of Dane Jackson, it's more of, well, now we have the roster spot, whereas Dorian was likely to be there anyway. Dane Jackson is the roster fill, where it's like, okay, now we can also carry this guy where we know what we're going to get from him. And if we need to put somebody out there to trust, we know we can trust him. And to the point of Trey White, yes, he's healthy, but man, after that first press conference where he was talking to the media and dropping F-bombs and talking,
Yeah, he's
I
fiery.
said, woo, he's in a different headspace. This is not the same Trey White, of old, who's out there just having a good time and letting his, reputation speak for itself. Now he says, no, I'm back, and damn it, I'm good, right? And I'm going to show you what I can do again. That press conference really lit a fire under me and was like, damn, my confidence in Trey White just kicked up a notch. Like, certainly, without a doubt, coming in, even when we signed him, you knew there was a floor, right? And that was why you sign a guy like Trey White. You have the depth. Without a doubt, there's a floor. You know what Trey White can do. He may not be the superstar Trey White that he once was, but he's damn good even without that to a certain extent. Now, if he can build and because he's healthy and because he's been working and because he's back in the Bills system, build back to being the best version of himself, even at this point in his age and career, that's freaking phenomenal for this team and certainly would be CB2 worthy. And then you have a chance when maybe Hairston is healthy or one of these other young guys or Dane Jackson, where later in the season, when he does get inevitably banged up, as all players do, you can rest him a little bit. You can rotate. You can do things because you have that depth at the position in order to keep Trey healthy, right? If that's ultimately the goal,
right.
That's part of what you're going to do. And that's not usually what the Bills do, obviously, but that's, I could foresee a rotation there where it's, not necessarily matchup based or whatever, but more, okay, one drive it's going to be Trey White, one drive it's going to be Hairston, or whoever it may be, Dane Jackson, whoever is in that kind of trustworthy role. So yeah, and it's going to depend on opponent and things like that. But I do see that later in the season being a benefit to having depth to the point where you trust multiple guys to go in there and be the guy, right?
So I want to ask you, right? And I want to ask the chat. I want to get the chat thoughts as well. Maxwell Hairston is battling an injury, and it's like it's the next man up, and we're comfortable with the Buffalo Bills depth because Maxwell Hairston, thank God, is not facing something season ending. But are you comfortable enough to say, you know what, Rasul Douglas is sitting right out there, and anything can happen in these later practices and preseason games. Is that a guy that you would entertain giving a call to, or are you comfortable with the depth, even though it's another injury away from being even more scarce? You never know what may happen, right? Christian Benford, he's had concussion issues last season, had multiple concussions. We just spoke about Trey White and his injury history. Did you ever think about entertaining a Rasul Douglas and giving him a call, or any cornerback and giving them a call?
Certainly I would. Yeah, I mean, I think Brandon Beane does his due diligence in this, right? Rasul's a guy who's been here before. He's got him on speed dial, right? So he's like, they probably already know his asking price or whatever it is, or maybe that he's waiting to see if an opportunity would open with the Bills before he goes sign with another team who's already interested in him, right? Or maybe he just wants to skip training camp. Who knows with Rasul right now? Because he's a valuable depth piece, and there's a million teams who need a cornerback desperately, way more than the Bills do right now, even if Maxwell Hairston is out for longer than expected, right? I mean, this is that we're in a much more comfortable position than a lot of teams in the NFL with the roster that they have. That being said, I certainly think that Beane should keep that in mind, because now what happens if a Trey White does get injured, or if, even a Dane Jackson who you were going to have on your roster, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, if he gets injured or something happens, he's not going to make the roster. What do we do? Now we have an extra cornerback slot. Who could be that guy, to come in? And Rasul's a guy who would not need training camp, who would not need anything, can walk in day one. And again, you have a certain floor. Rasul certainly took a big step back last year in my mind, right? And that's why he's no longer on this team. That's why the Bills didn't re-sign him. But it certainly as a depth piece or as an emergency, okay, we have an extra cornerback slot that we need, and we need to bring in somebody we can trust. Absolutely, you have him on speed dial, and Bean already knows the numbers it would take, the contract, whatever. What do I need to do to make this happen?
Mhm.
And I don't think it would be much at this point. Otherwise, he would be on a roster, right? And he would have
Right.
a starting chance on some other team.
Right.
Obviously, that's either not what he wants or they're not giving him what he wants. So,
Right.
yeah,
And I think
that's where I'm at with Sewell. Yeah.
yeah, and I think, as the longer he obviously stays a free agent, I think whatever his asking price was at the beginning of free agency is definitely down considerably. And I agree with most of the chat. Most of the chat says, hey, and you as well. They say, hey, you know what? Rasul Douglas is a step slower. He's not the same guy he was when the Buffalo Bills initially picked him up for the third round pick 2 years ago. But how I'm thinking is I like to be proactive a little bit. And how I'm thinking is, God forbid somebody else get injured. Would you rather have would you rather trot out Rasul Douglas or Dane Jackson? And as much as the step slower that Rasul Douglas looked, I may still rather him over a Dane Jackson in emergency situations. But of course, it's definitely a lot to discuss and more to talk about there. But I wanted to move on to another position group, right? We obviously saw the red and blue scrimmage from the Buffalo Bills yesterday, where we got to see Josh Allen in his red helmet. A lot of people are upset that he didn't get as much playing time as they would have liked, having 40,000 fans out there. But I'm like, come on, let's have him for the regular season.
Yeah,
You're gonna see him a lot during the regular season. So let's hold our horses.
He's there to shake hands and kiss babies, not to get autographs. Yeah,
yes,
right,
sir.
exactly.
Yes, sir. But a guy that hasn't practiced or did not participate in the red and blue game was Cole Bishop. He was out with a quad injury, right? And he was out last year with a shoulder injury. Now, we've been spoiled over the last few seasons. Well, despite last year, right? We've been spoiled with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde and their availability and durability to not only play in games but make impact in those games that they play in. How concerned are you with Cole Bishop and even Taylor Rapp, if you want to include him, his durability, the safety durability for the Buffalo Bills? How concerned are you, especially knowing how important of a role safeties play in a Sean McDermott defense?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, like you said, we were spoiled rotten with Poyer and Hyde. I mean, and their ability to not only be on the field, but be what they were on the field, right? A tandem that was phenomenal in Bills history, right? One of the top tandems in the NFL throughout their time together. So now it's a matter of who is that tandem, who's going to take over. Certainly, I think that Bishop and Rapp are the two most talented guys in the room, should be the starters. And all indications from camp were that those are the guys who are communicating the most, going to be on the field, all of that together. My concern with Cole Bishop is certainly that these lingering injuries, and really Rapp too, he's missed time over the past 2 years with injuries as well. And with Rapp, it's more of his style of play, right? He's going to miss a game or two. Why? Because he's super, super aggressive, and they love that about him. I mean, everybody talks about the friendly fire. I hate that. I was very anti-Rapp. The first season was with him. I'm like, every time this guy's on the field, somebody gets hurt and, he misses a tackle. He's very, very aggressive. But they love that about him, right? And it does pay off when he's playing well. Certainly last year down the stretch, I started to see what Rapp come into his own as the best player he could be. And I said, okay, now I could see why they want this guy on the field all the time and what he brings to this defense with that aggressiveness. Cole Bishop, for me, the injury is more concerning because we haven't seen that growth and development and what he can be yet, really. I mean, we've seen flashes of it in small increments, but certainly not enough to say we're confident that he's our guy and he's going to be out there day one and he doesn't need to, miss time. A lot of these injuries that are happening at camp right now are more being safe than sorry, right? He stubbed his big toe. Well, sit down for a little bit and, your back hurts a little. Great. Sit down. Don't even worry about it because you're a veteran. We trust you. But in Cole Bishop's case, if he stubbed his toe or his back hurt, guess what? You need the snaps. We need you on the field right now. You need the practice reps. So the fact that he's missing time means, hey, we're really worried about this. We don't want it to get worse. You cannot be out on the field practicing. And the fact that the one thing about Cole Bishop that I've been consistent on, and I was live on the draft coverage when we picked Cole Bishop and said this very thing. You picked, and no, I like Cole Bishop, the player. I liked him when we picked him. I liked him as a draft prospect. The talent is there. The ability is there. But you have Sean McDermott as a head coach. He could turn 𝐾𝐨𝐬 and I into starting safeties in the NFL. I'm confident in that. He can get baseline safety, baseline, not like superstar, but he can get baseline activity from a body, anybody on that roster. He can turn a talented guy like Hyde, Poyer, those were good guys in their time before the Bills. They became superstars with the Bills, or, all of Sean McDermott's history with that position, the safety position especially. He turns guys from good into superstars, right? So when Bean and the team chose to draft a safety in the second round of the NFL draft, I was the one on air live and ever since then who said, I don't like picking a safety in the second round, not because, oh yeah, Sean McDermott could do that. If a guy's worth it, you draft him there. But because now you put on him the ultimate pressure. This guy has to be a superstar. He can't be just good. He can't be just great. He has to be a superstar, and he needs to be a superstar now because you invested a second round pick. Think about if we drafted a wide receiver there, an offensive lineman there, a cornerback there, anything else in the second round of that draft where we pick Cole Bishop, they would need to be contributing now. The fact that it's a safety only makes that worse. The pressure is on from day one. Hey, safety, we could have picked a guy in the 6th, 7th undrafted rounds, and he could play as good as you are right now, right? So, no, you were drafted in the second round. You need to be one of the top safeties in the NFL. And that's not my expectation. That's the expectation that should be put on him based on where he was picked and who he was picked by, right? This is Bean and McDermott, and McDermott especially. So if you can't maximize your talent with McDermott, you don't belong in the NFL at this position. And not that I'm concerned that Bishop doesn't have that, but there has come to light with the press conferences as well from Joe Brady or from the defense and other guys saying that part of it was mental for Cole Bishop, which again, that's completely understandable for any of these guys. You will never hear me, rap on a guy who's, or put a guy down because he's had mental struggles in the NFL. There is a lot of pressure that comes with this. There's a lot of money, right? There's a lot on the line that puts you in a position where you have to succeed. Now, these guys got to get used to it, and they got to play up to that ability. There's no way around that, or they're not going to make it. But in Cole Bishop's case, he was clearly struggling mentally off the field and on the field as well. And hopefully now he's matured enough through a year of experience. He feels more comfortable. He's been with the Bills throughout the whole offseason. I think that will help him grow and develop. But he's got to be on the field. You got to get those snaps. And the longer he's injured, the more my confidence wanes. However, that being said, Damar Hamlin is the way this guy gets talked about around the NFL and even within Bills circles annoys me. Damar Hamlin won the starting job last year. We brought in 5 bodies, and Damar Hamlin won that job. He said, no, I'm the best guy on this field right now, and you will put me on the field. And we had to because he was, right? Now, this year, he is just like we talked about before, he is the baseline of this is the floor now. Even if one of these guys, we have to put him out there, great. He'll succeed. We know what he can do. He's not going to be a superstar. He'll make plays. He'll miss plays. But he's going to give us a baseline in this defense that we're comfortable with. And we know what we're going to get out of that. And then you bring in, what's his name from Washington, who we got. His name slips my mind. Dang it.
Forrest.
Yes, Forrest. Thank you. There's other guys there who can now bring in interesting potential to the team, right?
Derek Forrest,
okay. What can Forrest do in McDermott's defense? Again, talking about how he's a safety guru. This is another one of those guys who's flashed and shown talent across the NFL. Now comes in as a veteran to Buffalo. Okay, that to me is one of those shiny little stars that says Sean McDermott picking a rostered, safety who's coming in. Clearly, he sees something that he can mold and likes. We haven't heard much about that. I haven't heard much about that throughout training camp yet, but I think that you know, you wouldn't bring a guy in just under those circumstances without having that confidence and endorsement from Sean McDermott. So, you know, overall with the safety position, I do think it's not our strongest depth on the roster. It's not my most confident position on the roster, but I do think that having those guys, Damar Hamlin especially, sets the floor for where we can be. Now, if both Rapp and Bishop end up injured at some point and out, then I'm a little concerned. You know, then it's okay. What does Jackson bring? What do Hamlin and whoever is the other guy look like together? And then who do we bring in if we needed to sign somebody? Right? Is, you know, who's getting the fifth safety snaps on the team? And that's where, you know, it gets a little more concerning for me. So am I concerned a little bit? Certainly. And with Cole Bishop, it's more about put up or shut up. Like, come on, get on the field, do what you can do, live up to your ability. And I want to do that by supporting him, not putting him down or like saying he can't do it. I know he has the ability. I liked him as a prospect, but picking him where he did, the pressure is there and he's got to live up to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about, you know, Damar Hamlin, right? Talk about him a little bit. I don't blame Damar Hamlin. You know, Damar Hamlin at the end of the day, he's a 6th-round pick. You know, he defied all odds. If you're going to be mad at anybody, you got to be mad at, or if you got to feel a way about possibly Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane not bringing in better talent than Damar Hamlin taking that job. You know, as a 6th-round pick, Damar Hamlin exceeded expectations. And being in he's not as athletically gifted as a Cole Bishop, but he's always in the right place at the right time. And being at the right place at the right time, I'm looking at as a skill. Right, just like Taylor Rapp, he gets interceptions, or the interceptions go right to Rapp, the tip, and he's just there.
Yeah,
being in the right place at the right time is a skill. It's not a coincidence. So, you know, we can't harp on Damar Hamlin. Now, is he athletically limited? Yes, he's athletically limited. Does he have a ceiling? Yes, he has a ceiling, but for what he's done as a 6th-round pick, he's definitely exceeded expectations. So
even
we can't
in his
take
rookie
nothing,
year, right?
We can't take nothing away from Damar Hamlin.
Pre-injury, Damar Hamlin was exceeding expectations when he was forced into the role because of injury, right? He played, I think it was 6 or 8 games that his rookie season as a guy who was a 6th-round pick and barely made the roster and was just overlooked. He played well that year, and that's when really all of our eyes opened and said, oh, this guy can actually play. You know, again, not being a superstar, but he can play on the field.
He can fill a void. He can fill a void.
And then when he came back from the injury, everybody's like, oh, it's just because of that. Like, no, do you not realize that this guy did that before any of this injury stuff? And now he's doing it again after. And then he won the job last year. And people still think, oh, he can get cut and it won't be an issue. Like, I won't care. Like, no, he contributes and he should be on this team. And he's probably going to play special teams as well, right? So certainly he's still a valuable member of this team. And my respect for him has never waned because of that. Like, everything we've seen from Hamlin is everything he is, right? Like a good human being who does the right thing, who tries his damn hardest on the field and has earned every little bit of what he's gotten, right? So I love that guy on my team all the time.
Absolutely, especially as a depth piece for me. But getting back to Cole Bishop right quick, he has all the athletic ability in the world. Right, I do think, and I said this before, I do think Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop is a little redundant. Who's going to play where? Who's the box safety? Who's the free safety? Who plays best where? I think it's something they have to figure out. But Cole Bishop has to, in my opinion, he has to stay on the field. He has to stay on the field, and we seen the mental capacity not being where it needed to be at times last year. We seen it in the Houston Texans game when he got beat deep. When they got beat deep, that Nico Collins touchdown. It's been years since I seen the Bills, since I seen receivers get behind the safeties of the Buffalo Bills. So that aspect of the game, he definitely has to work on. But he has all the athletic ability in the world, and hopefully we get to see that progression this year, especially like you said, being the highly touted 2nd-round pick in a Sean McDermott defense. So we need him, Cole Bishop. We expect him to be an impact player this year. We expect him to be that breakout player this year. When we talk about Bills players that you expect to take the next leap in progression. Cole Bishop, I almost did it again. Cole Bishop's name, Cole Bishop's name is on that list as a player that needs to take that leap in progression. And
Absolutely.
we need that as a team in order to have success as a defense. We need Cole Bishop to play well.
I think one of the other points there in the chat that Doug said that I wanted to bring up there, I think the D-line will be better, so not as much pressure on the back end guys. 100%. I've been saying this all off season too, in my group chats, to my friends, to around the people. When people ask me about the Bills, what's better about the Bills this year? Obviously, it's D-line, right? And we talk about that. Well, all the guys we signed and things going on there. That's the obvious one that people are like, oh, the Bills beefed up their D-line because they want to go after the Chiefs. Bills fans and bring that up with me. And the first thing I always say is that's also going to make things a heck of a lot easier for the defensive backs in general, the cornerbacks and safeties, right? When those defensive guys are up front, are getting to the quarterback and going after him and forcing a play, you can be ready for what's happening next, and you can be more aggressive and go after the ball and etc. So it's going to make it easier all around this year, I think, with a better up front for the guys in back. And so they might flash, right? We might see the best version of Taylor Rapp and Trey White and everybody else out there because of the better D-line.
And I'm glad. And you know what? I was going to go on the offensive side, but I'm gonna get there. But I think this is a great segue. And if you're now tuning into Billsology, once again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm your host, 𝐸𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞𝐿. I got Anthony Romeo in here filling in for DM3 tonight. Appreciate him for being in. But since we're on the D-line, right? I have a question for you. It's been a revamped defensive line. I don't think we're going to see any Shaq Lawsons or Jordan Phillips this year, right? We got, especially at the defensive tackle position, we got a plethora of defensive tackles: T.J. Sanders, Deion Walker, Larry Ogunjobi, Michael Hoyt, Dwayne Carter. 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 Jones is a guy that when people speak about him, they think that he's possibly on the bubble. I'm probably one of the few. I don't think 𝐃𝐨𝐽 Jones is on the bubble. I think 𝐃𝐨𝐽 Jones is a valued presence along the Buffalo Bills D-line and defense. I think he has the experience that I think is necessary for the young rookies and young guys. And I think he's another year removed from injury. I know he played 16 games last year, but I think he's going to be even better this year. And I think a lot of us are overlooking him because of the revamped players that we do have. Give me your thoughts on 𝐃𝐨𝐽 Jones a little bit before we touch on the rest of the defensive tackles. Do you think he's safe? Do you think he's a bubble guy? What's your thoughts on 𝐃𝐨𝐽 and his role for the Buffalo Bills this season?
Well, certainly coming into the season is a different conversation than week 7, right? Or week 8, I guess it is, because we have a bye week 7. But when the two guys who are suspended come back, there's going to be roles. You gotta have roster spots to give up in order to get those guys back. So there's a question to be had there. At the beginning of the season, certainly, to me, I'm with you. 𝐃𝐨𝐽 Jones is a guy. He's a true one tech, right? I think he's the only true one tech on the team, right? And we know, again, McDermott and the way he runs this team and everything, he goes with guys he knows he can trust and what he knows he can get out of them, right? There might be a more talented guy out there, but Sean McDermott goes with what he can trust the most, not who has the highest potential, right? Because with the high potential guy, there could be a lower floor. He'll take the higher floor with a lower ceiling all day long. That's just who Sean McDermott is. And that's what we've talked about with some of these other positions and having depth and going with guys you trust and the way Bean builds the roster, right? I think 𝐃𝐨𝐽 Jones is an essential piece of this D-line right now, right? As the veteran in the room, as the guy who can teach the other young guys who are playing that position. And like you said, he's been coming off injuries. Now he's healthy. We hope he can return to the form he was the beginning of 2 seasons ago when he was, being elite level play. And yeah, I have all the confidence in the world that 𝐃𝐨𝐽 Jones will be on this team, right? Like, and play, right? And play significant snaps. I mean, he's older. Yeah, we know they rotate the line all the time, but to me, he is the guy that I believe will be on this team. Now, could there be something we don't know about, like the coaches and team feel like he has taken a significant step back? To me, he would be a surprise cut. And what that cut would tell me is, listen, we learned throughout this process that he's no longer who we thought he was. And unfortunately, that means he's going to get cut. And again, when that week 8, I guess it'll be, transition happens, that's going to be when we find out it's put up or shut up time, right? Somebody's going to have to go. Somebody's going to be flashing during that time, and somebody's going to be struggling. And whoever is the one that's struggling is likely to be the guy who's cut and either put on the practice squad or, no longer with the team. So I don't think even going into that position, 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 Jones is not the guy on my list that I think would get cut or removed in the event that those guys come back.
And I think you said it best right there. I think they're going to be defensive tackles that's going to be auditioning to be on the team for the duration of the season once suspensions from Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi finish, right? And I think, whoever's playing the best, just like you said, obviously is going to remain on the team, and whoever's struggling is one of those guys that's going to be the odd guy out. And Roy Williams talked about a guy that Dwayne Carter, talking about he got drafted to play a 3 tech defensive tackle, but they have him playing 1 tech. So when I see that, there is like, okay, he's playing out of position. If he is playing out of position, how successful can a Dwayne Carter be in a position he's not accustomed to playing necessarily? So I think he could be a guy that we could be on the watch for being an eye guy out, even in his second year. Even his second year, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens throughout the first 6 or 7 weeks to see who has that success and who
gets the opportunity in that time as well, right? We know, again, they rotate all the time, but not all these guys are going to see 30% of the snaps on the field at a time, right? So I that'll be interesting to me as well, and who flashes when they do get the opportunity. Carter, to me, I almost feel bad for the guy. Super high character guy. We know that he struggled last season and, the injuries. This year, you come in, now you're changing position. Okay, now we want you to gain weight or whatever it is, usually for the 1 tech, right? So I don't know how he's reacting to that change, but clearly the coaching staff was confident he could make that change. So it's certainly one that all of us need to keep our eyes on and say, okay, what does he look like as a 1 tech, and can he do this? And maybe he's not the flashiest guy, but he again brings a certain level of expectation and can be the rotational guy, because you do need a starter, but you need somebody who can rotate in too. And their confidence in him is what I want to see more than anything. So that'll become more apparent as we get closer to that cut line. I don't want it to be him either, honestly. Again, high character. Loved it when they signed him. Super, he was a captain everywhere. He's and his play on the field, I mean, it speaks for itself for what it was in college. I mean, not yet at the NFL, but again, limited opportunity, first year guy. Now I want to see him grow. And I don't think that he would be their first guy to say, okay, we're giving up on you this early, especially with those credentials, the things that McDermott and Bean really, really love in their locker room.
Now let me ask you this. 3rd and 15, obvious passing situation. Who is your 4 defensive linemen that you're putting on the field to get to the quarterback on 3rd and 15?
Well,
in the chat, y'all can answer this too, because I'm thinking the Buffalo Bills and their staff is going more of a positionless defensive line approach in terms of how they do things, because you want
Hoyt out there. Are you saying before Hoyt or after Hoyt is back?
I'm period. Just 3rd and 15. Who's the 4 best defensive linemen to get to the quarterback that you will want to see on the football field? Who's your 4 down lineman on 3rd and 15?
Well, I mean, Ed Oliver if you don't have him there, you're crazy, right? So Oliver's definitely there. And Rousseau, I would say the same thing, right? Rousseau's there. If Joey Bosa is healthy, I don't know how you keep him off the field. So there's 3, right? So the question is, who's the 4th, really? And yeah, I mean, you could make an argument for a lot of those guys in the middle. Is it 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 Jones? Maybe not. Maybe you go and you say, if I want to rush the quarterback, I'm putting in, there you go, TJ Sanders, right? Sanders. That's exactly who I was going to say. That is the one where it's like, okay, if I need to rush the passer, this is what TJ Sanders does well. And again, we've talked about this since he's been drafted, but the TJ Sanders, Ed Oliver, smaller D lineman combination is something that's been discussed, right? So it's like, what are we going to do with this smaller D-line interior? Well, if we're rushing the passer on 3rd and 15, put those guys in there and let's do
those guys
baby.
in.
Because you're talking about Groot, Bosa, all of those guys are 10+ sack ability guys. So yeah, I'd love to have all 4 of them on the field and then, you know, let our defense do what it can do. Certainly way level of confidence infinity higher than last season, right? Where it was a, oh my God, 3rd and 15, just give them the first down. I felt like that by the end of the season because we really, really struggled in 3rd and long situations.
We did.
And it was because we didn't get to the quarterback. So that's really what has to change with this team. And I would say, again, they took something that they said, Bean is an artist this way. What is our greatest weakness? We're now going to make it our strength. And that is really what they've done with this D-line. They said, what's our greatest weakness? We can't finish. We don't get to the quarterback and finish. We can't be ultimately there. I hated the, oh, well, we had the highest level of, what's the term when you get to the quarterback, but you don't make the sack? I can't even think of it
pressure,
right now. But
the pressure.
Yeah, like the pressure. Oh, highest pressure level.
I call it Jerry Hughes. I call it the Jerry Hughes rate.
F your pressures. Your pressures don't mean anything. You got to finish, baby. You got to finish. And yeah, pressures are good if they result in something like an incomplete pass or whatever. But when the pressure results in a 3rd and 15 becoming a first down every time, that's a problem for this team. So this year with that quad, 4 players on the field, I mean, even if you substitute one of those guys, you know, oh, Joey Bosa's taking a rest. Okay, throw in your next favorite pass rusher on this team and you're okay, right? So
I'm also intrigued with Javon Solomon and his pass rush ability.
That was actually going to be the name that I brought up as the guy
intrigued
from last year. I loved him last year as a pick because I thought he would learn from, you know, the best in Von Miller at somebody who is that size and that ability. So I and all talks from camp are he's really growing this offseason. So, you know, if he's a guy who can spot, you know, again, say Joey Bosa's winded, okay, we'll put him out there. And again, a pass rush guy who has a different type of attack and move and style than Rousseau for sure, but also the interior guys. That to me is a dynamic, you know, what if I'm the offense, I'm worried about that. I'm saying, okay, what do I plan for? And Oliver's going to come bull rush me up the middle. TJ Sanders is going to find the hole. You know, Solomon's going to be the shifty spin move guy, and Rousseau coming out on the edge. I mean, you cannot win in that situation. What do you plan for? One of those guys is going to get home, right? And obviously, even with those combinations, it doesn't mean they're going to sack the quarterback every time. But I'm damn excited to see the success rate of successful plays, even if it's you forced a screen pass that only went for 3 yards instead of, you know, a big play on every attempt. So yeah, I'm super, super excited to see because over the years it's been exhausting to watch our D-line not live up to expectations. And really it's been 3-4 years of this where it's like, God, we need to get to the pass right. And we've tried thing after thing and been unsuccessful and different coaches have come in. And now this year they're like, you know what? Balls to the wall. We're trying it different this year. Yeah. And then you talk about Hoyt, who's a guy that could be your, you know, linebacker, pass rush specialist, you know, everything, right? On the field.
He's everything.
And you put him out there in a, you know, 2nd and 15 situation where it's like, okay, maybe we could run the ball here, but we're likely to pass. And, you know, he's still likely. He could be rushing. He could be, you know, doing a blitz and coming after the quarterback, or he could be dropping in coverage and going after somebody, right? So the excitement I have for what this defensive line can bring to this team, it cannot be understated. I mean, it's as high as it could possibly be. Even in the preseason, I'm going to be watching that. But man, come week 1 and come the real season, that is only going to grow and develop as the season goes on. And instead of being our weakness in the playoffs, it's going to be our strength. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Shifting gears. Talking about lines, let's shift over to the offensive side of the ball. More specifically, let's talk about the offensive line a little bit because we're getting players back from injury. We're getting Dawson Knox back. He started practicing. Tyrell Shavers, who looked like he had a bad injury with his ankle, he's back. And Spencer Brown is activated off the PUP list, I believe. So let's talk about Spencer for a little bit. I got a question. Do you think Spencer Brown is the key to continued stability along the offensive line in 2025? Because I think he's a key cog in the offensive line. I think he's our best run blocker. amongst the Buffalo Bills offensive line. I think James Cook has success. Of course, he's a great back, but I think, when the offensive line can open up those holes, it makes the running back look even better. And I think Spencer Brown is a big proponent to opening up those holes, those running lanes along the offensive line. Only allowed 1 sack last season, 3 hits allowed, 0.2% sack rate, and he started all 17 games. So I want to get your thoughts on Spencer Brown a little bit and what he brings to the offensive line, which I think he's a key contributor and the main X factor.
I mean, guys who know the offensive linemen throughout the NFL know Spencer Brown, know his unbelievable athletic ability, and now have put some respect on his name in terms of this guy could be considered a top 10 offensive lineman in the league, and nobody would bat an eye if you really know offensive linemen, right? We as Buffalo Bills fans appreciate Spencer Brown for his growth and what he's become and what he's given to this team. But even on the Buffalo Bills, if you say offensive line, we don't say Spencer Brown. We say Dion Dawkins, because he's that damn good, and he deserves all that. And Dawkins has been that guy and is the leader on this offensive line and this team, really, behind Josh Allen, of course. But, without a doubt, right? So it's Spencer Brown deserves every bit of the love that he doesn't get, and he does get. But it's being compared to the offensive line. He'll always be the second guy on the offensive line because there's Dion Dawkins, right? If you tell me which player would I be scared the most to lose, certainly I wouldn't want to lose Spencer Brown. Spencer Brown comes off the field. Whoever's replacing him, Tylan Grable has been the fourth guy, right? The next tackle, whatever you want to call him.
Man up.
That's I think you lose something, right? You lose a superior athletic ability. Now, I have utmost faith and confidence in our offensive line because the continuity, the coach, right? I mean, you cannot exceed the expectations are high, but they all live up to them. So and returning as many guys as we have, really the entire offensive line is phenomenal, especially after they had a record-breaking year. So I think, even if you lost to Spencer Brown, it wouldn't be great. I would be like, ooh, that's not good, because you definitely take a step back. You definitely worry about a guy filling in. But the guy who's coming in could probably start on half the NFL teams and be a good starter, not just,
I like Tylan Grable a lot. I like Tylan Grable a lot. I'm interested. I can't wait to see him in preseason, actually. Tylan Grable, I like his hands. He has violent hands. I want to see how he does in pass protection and in the run game as well. So,
and he's going to get those opportunities again in this preseason for sure.
Absolutely.
And we've seen that from him before. He's earned that next man up at tackle position, right? So I think that, he's Grable is a good fill in there. But if you said we would lose Dion Dawkins for a period of time, I would be much more concerned than, a Spencer Brown, not just because of what's on the field, because what Dion does is special, right? In a fact that he is unique. Spencer Brown is elite athleticism at its most, right? Like, without a doubt, one of the most athletic dudes in the NFL and all that. And certainly he's shown his ability on the field. Dion Dawkins is one of a kind. He with that position he sets up, the way he attacks guys, one of a kind. So anybody who's filling in for Dawkins would be a complete change to this offensive line. And again, he's the leader. He's the communicator. He's the guy out there. And certainly, you don't want to lose either of them. But Spencer Brown, I think, gets underappreciated because of that fact, right? Dawkins is more important, but Brown certainly, he cannot get enough love. And like I said, he's a top 10 offensive lineman in my mind. This pair of tackles is absolutely elite, and they showed that last year, and there's no reason to not believe that this year. And certainly with a guy like Spencer Brown and the injury this beginning of the season, beginning of the training camp, to me is one of those where we know who you are. You don't need to play a damn snap. You're playing on day one and you're my start, right? So if you stub your big toe, you sit down on the bench, have yourself, a look at the playbook or whatever, flip around and wave to the fans or whatever, because we don't need you to get injured or whatever. And you're too valuable to us to risk that. So we have the confidence in you. We know who you are. So I'm not as worried about that injury. Even though it was a back thing and we know he's had back issues in the past. No, not as worried about that.
And what's crazy is The Buffalo Bills, as far as position groups, we talk about athleticism with the cornerbacks or with the safeties. The Buffalo Bills offensive line might be the most athletic position group that they have on the football field. When you talk about Deion Dawkins and his athletic ability, the way he can get to the second level, you talk about Spencer Brown, who I think is probably one of the most, if not the most athletic tackle in all the NFL.
Yeah,
in Spencer Brown at 6'8", over 315 pounds. And let's not forget Connor McGovern, who's a hell of an athlete in his own right, playing the center position. So the Buffalo Bills, as far as athleticism within the position group, offensive line might take the cake. And we got to give more kudos to Aaron Kromer, right? Roy Collins talked about. Yeah, Van Der Mark, he played well last season at times. Alec Anderson does a great job as a 6th offensive lineman. We talk about Tyler Grable and being intrigued to see him this preseason. The Buffalo Bills have depth at the offensive line position, and Aaron Kromer is a big proponent of that. And I think he's one of the best offensive line coaches in this NFL.
And he makes every player who comes in becomes the best version of themselves, right? And that's all you can ask a coach to do. That is, if you had that from every coach, you'd be the best team in the league by far, right? And that is, with a guy like him, without a doubt, to me, the most respected offensive line coach out there, and his track record speaks for itself, and the guys love him. And yeah, he does whatever it is he whispers in their ear and practices with them. I don't know what it is an offensive line coach can do that, to get the most out of his guys, but he clearly knows the position, knows what to look for. And we know he's involved in the personnel decisions, right? He's saying, get me that guy, and I know I can turn him into something. Right. Absolutely. And that is, and Bean and McDermott would say, absolutely, man, because you've shown what you can do to us, and we want more of that. So even the late round pick, who is on the bubble, obviously, just because of the depth on this offensive line, you have to consider now, okay, who can he unseat? And we could keep him around if we think he's more valuable. And whoever gets cut is certainly going to land on a roster, not like a practice squad, a roster around the NFL. I'm that confident in our offensive line. We could likely trade whoever doesn't make it to another team. The problem with that is everybody knows it's cut down day, and that the Bills will have too many offensive linemen. And if they're not willing to give something up, we'll just sign him after you cut him. Right. So that's always the disappointment on cut down day with any position. People are like, oh, we could have traded that guy. We could have traded him and gotten value. Why'd we cut him? Because the whole NFL knows you're going to cut him, and nobody's willing to give anything up because he's going to be on the street tomorrow signing a contract with us. Right.
Right. Moving along. You are in tune to Billsology. I'm 𝐸𝐵𝐿, Anthony Romeo in the building with me. Let's talk receivers. Anthony, how much receivers make the Buffalo Bills roster?
Ooh, that's a really good question. If I knew that, Hakeem, I'd be making the Bills 53-man roster now. Because
let's guess.
I mean, without a doubt, as a scientist, I'll tell you the math and everything says 5, right? 5. They don't go 6. It's 5. That's what McDermott likes to do. He always has 5, right? 5. If you look at the roster, it's 5. So which 5 do you like, right? And this year, I think, is the biggest year to make an argument for 6. And I'll say this much: if they do 6, if they do take 6 on the roster active, I think that 6th person has to have a significant special teams contribution, right? Is that the punt and kick returner? Is that, somebody who's, going to be playing significant all snaps on special teams? Then you can make an argument that, just like cornerback last year, where it was like, the cornerback position was the kick returner. I don't think, we would ever play him at cornerback in a position like that, but that's his position label. And so we kept an extra cornerback who was not a cornerback, but a kick returner. You could do that same thing with a wide receiver, only that position, wide receiver, you could get play on the field. You wouldn't be, top line, but man, if you could get 10% of snaps out of insert 6 guy here, and I say that because you could make it whoever you want. KJ Hamler, a guy who has been here for a year, gained that trust that we've talked about time and time again. Is that a, Laviska Shenault who you bring in and you say, hey, you've got a chance. We think you can play special teams. We think you could be our punt returner. So you're the 6th guy. And we could put in some, old trick plays that include you because you are the fastest dude, out there, one of the fastest guys. So I think there is so much intrigue over this wide receiver position and what it comes down to on draft day or on cut down day, because yeah, I think the top 5 is set, right? You have Coleman, you've got Shakir, you sign Josh Palmer. Yep, there you go. You get Curtis Samuel. The way DJ or what's his name? Elijah Moore's contract is indicates that he's making the roster one way or another. But we've seen crazier things, right? So and his the hype he's gotten in this preseason and off-season workouts and all that. I do think those 5 guys, it's hard to unseat one unless Elijah Moore does something that is like underwhelming and they're like, you know what, we're going to cut you in favor of one of these guys who flashes even more. One of the guys I listed, or Tyrell Shavers, or that 6th guy. There are probably 6 guys who could be that 6th guy, and that is not an understatement right now. That's not an understatement right now, because even the camp bodies that we've brought in have flashed so much that they're like, damn, are we going to have to keep our eye on this kid to actually make the roster? Likely those are going to be practice squad stashes, right? Like that's ultimately where guys like that are going to end up. But 6 is so intriguing to me, and I would keep 6. But if you're asking me how many I think the Bills keep, it's probably 5, just because that's what the Bills do. And then they do that in favor of their 10 offensive linemen, 10 defensive linemen. We rotate more than a lot of guys. Linebacker, cornerback, these numbers are set through the McDermott era usually. So it would be a surprise if they keep 6, but I would love for them to keep 6, just because there's so much flashiness and fun that would come with a 6th receiver.
6th player, and I think a lot of the chat said it. I think the 5 is cemented. I think the 5 is a lock in terms of those guys being on the Buffalo Bills roster. That 6th guy, and I've seen some names in the chat. I have 2 guys, in my opinion, can be that 6th guy. Of course, KJ Hamler is another guy that's intriguing as well because of his return ability. But I'm thinking Tyrell Shavers,
love him.
or Jalen Virgil. Who adds more dimensions to the roster? I really like Tyrell Shavers. I think he adds a size dimension. He brings another big body to the Buffalo Bills wide receiving room. We've seen his yards after the catch ability kind of last year, right? Against New York Jets, taking that short pass and going to 68, 69 yards to the house. So I think he brings a physical ability and a yards after catch ability that the Buffalo Bills can use. And Jalen Virgil, I think, is a pretty damn good route runner for being a 6th receiver. And I think they really like him on special teams as a gunner. They put him a lot out there as one of the top gunners for the Buffalo Bills on special teams. So those 2 guys, if the Buffalo Bills were to go that route and take a 6th receiver, I think it will be one of those 2 guys in Tyrell Shavers and Jalen Virgil.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to address the Curtis Samuel slander that I've heard all off season as well of, let's trade Curtis Samuel, or he's like an afterthought all of a sudden. Last year, I was most excited about Curtis Samuel playing with him, right, with Josh Allen, because Curtis Samuel could be that guy to connect with him and get that done. And, their potential together is still high in my mind, right? Now, Curtis Samuel, we know he deals with injury issues, and that sucks, but they knew that when they signed him. And unfortunately, most of last season was that. But we saw when he was on the field and getting healthier toward the end, that's when he started to make contributions and make plays. And I'm not talking about getting 10 catches a game. That's not going to happen for him. But man, those 3 opportunities or 3 catches he makes them big plays, and he makes them, pay attention to him when he's on the field. So I think Curtis Samuel, to me, I'm still super, super excited for the potential that he has with Josh Allen and what he can do in this offense. So don't overlook Samuel as like the guy, we're going to keep Jalen Virgil and Elijah Moore, so Curtis Samuel's going to get traded. Plus, we're paying him, again, Curtis Samuel. If you cut him, there's so much dead money there. That's not happening. If you trade him, that could be a possibility. But who's going to take a guy who's owed, $30 million and hasn't lived up to the contract he signed yet? So I think be aware and be excited for what we can get out of Curtis Samuel this year. Not enough people are, and the slander of, we can just cut him or trade him is crazy to me. No, I want him to live up to that potential with Josh Allen. Right. Especially in a time now you brought in Josh Palmer, but Palmer now has to gain that chemistry and learn Josh Allen. And we've seen with wide receivers in Josh Allen that takes a few games into the regular season usually, right?
It takes time. It takes time. Absolutely.
You build it. And so I think Curtis Samuel will hit the ground running this year if he's healthy. And a guy like Josh Palmer, will see him ramp up as he gets more used to the offense with Josh Allen and the plays run. So Curtis Samuel slander to me is crazy.
Yeah, I love Curtis Samuel. I love Curtis Samuel. Moving on to our last topic. There has been a big player that requested a trade. I gotta talk about it. Will it happen? The chances probably low, but I think it's worth the discussion. Micah Parsons has requested a trade from the Dallas Cowboys. If you were Brandon Beane, would you pick up the phone and inquire about Parsons? What are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts? How do I say this? It's insane. It's insane. Like, shut up. Stop talking about this.
Really?
All the guys out there who are talking about this, every time I see it in my feed, oh, well, the Bills could entertain this. Stop. First of all, Micah Parsons, elite pass rusher, elite play. Love the guy. He has holes in his game. He's not perfect. Sometimes when he plays, he overshoots the play. You know, when he was healthy last year, I was like, what is he? I mean, yes, he's an elite player, and damn, when he makes plays, he makes plays. But I don't want that guy on my team. Meaning that super high upside with some of the and that diva mentality of I need to make 60 million. Who the hell do you think you are? You know, you're not the best player in the NFL. You're not Aaron Donald, right? Like, who the fuck do you think you are? No, you don't deserve that contract. You were injured last year. You think you're just going to come in and get the highest contract?
I think he wants at least 40 mil. He wants at least 40 mil.
He's insane. He's not going to get 40 mil from anybody, let alone the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think that's, I mean, not nobody who's smart, I guess, because he's injured. Yes, he's elite. He's elite. I get it. If you want a pass rush guy like that, great. He doesn't fit this defense ever in my mind. Like, no, what? I love Micah Parsons. He's a great player. Do not see him in this defense. Micah Parsons
I don't know, Anthony, man.
Micah Parsons as a human being. Micah Parsons as a human being and the way he's handled this whole situation. And yes, the Dallas Cowboys are to blame. They're insane for not just giving him what he asked for because you drafted this guy. You made this guy who he is now with his ability. You need that guy. You need him to be the leader on your defense. And you already are struggling because you're paying all these other guys. Just pay that guy and make it work and figure out a way to make it happen. And ultimately, I think that is what happens, right? Hello, wasn't there a guy in Cleveland who is an elite player, absolutely one of the best, who said he wanted to trade and then said, oh, wait a minute, I signed a big contract with the team anyway, and I wanted to win and all this nonsense BS. That works in this league. So to say that Micah Parsons wants a trade, first of all, no, he doesn't. He wants a contract. He doesn't want to trade. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He just wants money. That's what he wants. He wants to be paid. And again, he's earned his payday. He's good. He's great. He's elite. I've said it. But no, I don't want him on this team. And no, Beane isn't going to pick up the phone because even if he wanted the damn guy, he can't get him. There's no way that we could put him on this team. No way. You can't restructure the moon to give him what he's asking for. You're going to cut Dawkins? You're going to cut somebody? I mean, there's no money in the bank to give this man what he's asking for. There's no way. I don't care how many salary cap isn't real tough. Guys are out there. You're not kidding him. We should not even be entertaining the debate that we talk about. Again, it filled up my news feed one day, and I'm like, what the? Who cares that he said this? Again, there's so many layers to it. He asked for a trade. Already irrelevant. Nobody cares that he asked for a trade. The Cowboys don't care that he asked for a trade. They don't have to honor it. They don't have to pay him, right? Like that's the way the NFL works. You either play under what the contract you have, under the money we're giving you, and you become a free agent, or you don't make any money at all this year, and you sit on your butt and you hope to God that somebody pays you a bank next year, right? So those aren't good options for Micah Parsons. So yeah, he says, I want to trade to hype it all up so that eventually Dallas gives in and pays him. And ultimately, that's probably going to be what happens anyway, because of what I said in the beginning. They know he's really good. They desperately need him.
Mm-hmm.
If they let him walk, their team is in shambles, their defense. So, I mean, it's, the whole situation is just annoying more than anything. And now I didn't even turn on talk radio or like ESPN or anything, because I know they're having a field day with this.
Yeah,
and what teams could fit for Micah Parsons? And it's like,
Mhm.
God, if they say the Bills, I'm going to scream, because it's just nonsense. We already got, the guys that we've brought in, and the way they've approached this team is the way that they're going forward. Micah Parsons does not fit into the equation, does not make sense for this team. They're not going to entertain him next year unless he's going to take way less than $40 million. That to me, no, like just no. Bean doesn't even make the call, and Bean calls on everybody. I was going to say, normally my default answer would be, of course, Bean calls on everybody.
Right.
Everybody. And he'll say, oh, I checked in on that. Oh, yeah, I checked in on that.
Mm-hmm.
This time, he doesn't even dial the phone, because he's smart enough to know that this is a ruse. And he's smart enough to know that even if we could get this guy, there's no way I can make it happen. So I don't think he's even making the call this time.
Aren't you tired of Patrick Mahomes running around in the backfield and having all the time to throw in the world? I seen the Mario Addisons of the world try, and Shaq Lawson, and Von Miller, and we tried this, and we went a little harder in revamping our defensive line and our approach this year, but it's kind of similar to what we've been doing in the past. And my only argument is, if you want to beat Patrick Mahomes, if you want to get to Patrick Mahomes, you need a guy that has that ability to go ahead and do it. Now, is it a pipe dream? Absolutely. It's absolutely a pipe dream to try to get Micah Parsons. But if you want to get over that hump, you want to get over to that next level in terms of beating Patrick Mahomes, with the Buffalo Bills seemed having a hard time to do, matching Super Bowl losses and losses to the Kansas City Chiefs. And a main proponent to those losses is the inability to get to Patrick Mahomes. I think, he's in that rookie contract. Of course, he's going to want his big money, but man, I would pick up the phone. I would pick up the damn phone. Jerry, what's going on? Let's go out to dinner.
So let's talk about that then. You pick up the phone. What do you think the price is? What do you think the cost of making your team better for the next 3 years is going to be to bring in Micah Parsons? You're talking about first round picks. You're talking about current talent right now. You're trading somebody to you're giving them Greg Rousseau. I mean, no, it just doesn't make sense. You're giving them 2 first rounders and some type of contributing player. Right? Who
are the last 2 first round picks for the Buffalo Bills?
What are you saying? That they're not contributors?
No, I'm saying who are they? Is Maxwell Harrison and 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐷. You wouldn't trade Maxwell Harrison and 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐷 for Micah Parsons? F those picks. F those picks. Go get me a superstar level guy that can get to Patrick Mahomes when we need to get to Patrick Mahomes.
But then you have the $40 million, and your team can't get better in those 2 years. Like those guys or not, they made this team better at the positions they were drafted in. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. They made the room better. So, I mean,
regular season, yes, I agree.
You're giving that up.
I agree with that.
You're giving that up for the next 2 years. You no longer have the ability to make a room better because you got an elite player, which is a decision teams sometimes make, but not good teams and not smart teams, right? You're the all-in Rams approach, which did work for 1 year, but and they've had an unbelievable ability to develop players, and they're still a good team. But I mean, I just don't like any part of it. You're giving up, even if the cost was there and you're like, oh, we can pay him magically, which we can't. It's, again, you're giving up the draft picks and some elite player where now you're taking a negative to gain the positive. So you give up Greg Rousseau, you give up what? I mean, I don't even know what else they would consider along with first round picks, obviously, to say, yeah, we'll take AJ Epinesa. They're not going to take AJ Epinesa unless you're giving them 3 first round picks, right? Like, no, it's not happening.
Man, that's another that we could go on about that discussion back and forth for another half an hour, man. This Anthony, man, this has been a great show. This is why I wanted you on the show, because of your passion, your fiery passion, and just how your outlook on the game, man. Is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
No, just that I'm always appreciative of Built in Buffalo for letting me come on and talk with you guys and have fun. You know, I love doing this. I love it. It's fun. It's me. It's genuine. It's talking Bills. I do get excited. It's just awesome to be on here with you again and to, you know, get that excitement building toward the regular season. I will be at training camp this week on
Nice.
Thursday. A friend of mine got me tickets. Thank you, Matt. And I'm
Nice.
taking my son who's 4.5. He's really excited about the Bills this year, and I'm taking him to training camp, his first training camp at St. John Fisher, my alma mater. So
Nice. That's
super
exciting.
excited to go. It's going to be a lot of fun. He's excited to see Josh Allen in person. He keeps saying he wants to go to the stadium, so I'm probably going to have to take him to a game this year, you know.
Nice.
and
Nice.
I'm super excited for that. And you know, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be suited up. You know it. I'll have the suit
Suited and
on
booted.
at
Suited and
training
booted.
camp. I will be there. You know, if anybody's going to be there, please come say hi. And, you know, I'll be with my son, but we're there to have fun and have a good time and enjoy the practice. So, yeah, come say hi. And again, appreciate being on with you and talking Bills. And this is what it's all about for me. Just having fun and being on here with my friends and being able to, you know, talk to the people. So love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you as well. I appreciate you for coming on. I appreciate everybody for tuning into Billsology today. 𝐸𝐻𝐿 Richards, Anthony Romeo tuned in. And this is not going to this was the first time in a while, but this is not the last time you're going to see us together chopping it up, talking about the Buffalo Bills, talking about whatever discussions need to be discussed with the Bills Mafia. So from Akeem, from Anthony, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, go Bills.
Go Bills.